a special edition of Nuns Around the World. And today we are joined by Scott, who is from Colorado. How you doing, Scott?
Good. How are you, Scott?
I'm very well.
Good.
And also on the line is all the way from New Zealand. We have Holly with us.
Hi,
How you doing, Holly?
I'm good.
New
Tired?
Zealand. I thought she's an Australian. It's the same
Oh
thing,
my
right?
god. Don't
Same
even
thing,
go
right?
there. Do not call a New Zealander an Australian.
I know. I've heard that speech. I've been given that speech a couple times.
So we are discussing our atheism and how it kind of fits in or doesn't fit in with our communities, how old we were when we realized we were an atheist, and how that was reacted to by our community. So, Holly, how are you making out down there? Is there a heavy influence of Christianity still in New Zealand?
New Zealand is pretty secular. If you were to ask anyone on the street if they believed or not, you'd most likely get no. Um, but there are still like circles of hard religion. Like more cities are more religious, but in general, we're moving towards secularism.
Okay. Now, would you? Something I've noticed going across Canada is that the more fundamental type brand of Christianity seems to be in the smaller communities. Is there a lot of a difference that you've noticed when you have a lot of small villages where you're from?
um, I think by small you mean it's families. And in my church that I still go to because it's a family tradition, there's lots of big families that go. So I think you won't. It's more of like a family tradition thing now, as opposed to something that everyone does on a Sunday.
Right. Okay. Now, Scott, how old were you when you realized you're an atheist? Was this something that you had questioned early on, or were you kind of ingrained right into your belief system of your parents?
It wasn't with my parents. I grew up in a very non-religious, religion just wasn't an important part of our lives. I was baptized Lutheran very young, and I had my godparents that came out of that, and they were just good friends of the family that we hung out with. Um, but it wasn't probably until I was in my 30s that I finally decided I'm done with it, and that was shortly after I had been baptized Mormon. I was
Wow.
uh, I was dating a Mormon girl, and heard the whole story about how her ex-husband, who she was sealed to, was going to be joining us in the afterlife, uh, and I wouldn't be there unless I was sealed to the family. Um, so one thing led to another, and I gave God another try. I tried to believe. I was an ordained minister in the Mormon Church, um, and then after she and I had finally fell apart or fell out, um, I received notice from the church that I was no longer welcome. I'd been officially excommunicated.
And
Um,
and how old were you at this time?
this would have been my mid 30s, mid to late 30s, mid 30s.
So this was part of your life, up, for a good
Yeah,
chunk.
yeah. But again, it was something that I had made the conscious choice to give. I didn't believe in God entirely at that point, but the Mormon Church is all about family and I mean, first and foremost, they're about family and taking care of each other, regardless of what crazy stuff they believe. Beyond that, they really are. They have some interesting thoughts on the whole process, and I made that choice because I wanted to be with this woman. I made that choice to play the part, and when she and I split up, and I was no longer interested in pursuing the church. Um, I got a letter that I was excommunicated anyway. It's like I was cut loose because I was no longer part of her family. So that's when I think that's when I finally started really looking harder at what I believed and why I believed it, and that's kind of when I made the full push all the way over to atheism. Uh, just when I started investigating all the different religions and how they got to where they believed and what have you, uh, it was like, again, looking behind the veil and seeing uh, this doesn't track. The logic doesn't follow in this whole rigmarole.
Yeah, like once you've looked behind the curtain, it's not putting that toothpaste back in the tube, kind of thing.
Exactly. It was impossible um, to believe again, and even then, I never had a really strong belief, so it wasn't that hard to make that final. Okay, it's all bunk. But I never had the feeling, and you were talking about this earlier. I never had the feeling of being angry at people for duping me. I never, and people want to, of course, always depict atheists as being angry at God. I'm not angry at God. If I'm angry at anybody, I'm angry at the people who invented the concept of 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 gods, thousands of years ago or however long ago.
Right. Now, to tie this in, it's kind of interesting that you and Holly are at this point in your life where Holly's at a point where she's wondering what to tell her parents about her atheism, and you're a generation removed ahead of Holly. You're at a point now where you're dealing with what to tell your kids about your atheism. Holly,
Right.
you know, you're not quite really out yet, are you, Holly?
I think she's first.
No, I think it's kind of like coming out as gay. You know you have to do it eventually, but at the time being, you're just kind of procrastinating.
So, do you have close friends then that would know that you're an atheist?
Yes. The most prolific is probably my best friend, and he's gay himself and very Christian. So that's a whole nother story for another time.
Oh,
He had to come out. He had to come out to his very anti-gay dad. So that was a whole revelation. And I'm surprised that he's still very religious considering that experience. But he knows, and he's rather accepting.
so he can really relate to what you're facing right now.
Yeah, just the whole having to tell parents something they don't really want to hear.
Yeah, we've all been there. So, Scott, what are you telling your kids now? How old are they?
My oldest is 10. My youngest is 5. They both have had exposure to the concept of God. They both have been to religious schools and daycare, so they've been told, ABC 1 2 3, God is real, and it all kind of just flows in for them. But they're both aware that I don't believe, and the oldest is just now getting to the point where he wants to know why I don't believe. And one of the things that I'm trying to instill in them is, I'm not going to tell you what to think. I'm going to show you how to think. I want you to come to that conclusion on your own. If you tell me that you believe in God, that's fine, but I want you to tell me why you believe. Not because you sat in a classroom and somebody told you that God is real. I want you to actually tell me why you believe God is real, and how you came to that conclusion. I'll never tell them flat out that God doesn't exist, because I don't think any atheist really should be making that declaration. I never have. It's one of the things I argue all the time. Atheists cannot make that claim that God is not real, because then it's the whole burden of proof thing. And on the converse side of that coin is, if the theist tells me that he believes God exists, good on you, great. As long as you can reason your way through that and explain to yourself and to others why you believe, that's fine and well. But when you tell me that God is real, absolutely, I wholeheartedly know that God is real, then the burden's on you. Tell me why, how, what.
Yeah. So, Holly, what is it that you're waiting for, that special moment when you're going to tell your dad? Now, is there something special about your dad that might be throwing a monkey wrench into that?
Just because my dad is my main parent. My parents are married, but my mum had a stroke, so she's kind of like not active as a parent. So it's kind of my dad that's the big one.
Right.
That's like another story. I'm just.
What does your dad do for a living?
Well, he works for the government for a living, but he does preach occasionally on Sundays to a Baptist congregation.
Oh.
Yeah, he's pretty Christian.
Now, what's the competition in New Zealand as far as religions go? Is there a lot of other religions that are making their presence known in New Zealand yet?
I think because we are very secular, there's a huge push for the whole, you believe what you want to believe and I'll believe what I want to believe. So there are a lot of religions, but it's very accepting and there's no real competition between them. And can I just say, I really liked what he said about teaching them how to think, not what to think, because that whole push was one of the biggest things that pushed me towards atheism. Just the whole, why do I think this, as opposed to what should I be thinking.
Right. I mean, I've read the book. You're muted, Scott. I've read the Bible 3 times from front to back in my entire lifetime. The first time I read it, because I was an avid reader as a young child, I read it as a believer because I was scared to death. And like the whole Pentecostal thing terrified me. The thing I went to as a friend. Read the Bible cover to cover and was just. I remember thinking, what a great story this is, because I mean, this is after I'd read, Lord of the Rings and all that same time frame. I read the Bible and I was just what a great story. But I was still in that fantasy mode. I question all these things. I thought about dragons and elves in the same way I thought a likelihood of as Noah's Ark and Sodom and Gomorrah, all the other scary stories in there. But then I read it again when I was having doubts and things didn't jive at all. And then of course, after I was reading the Book of Mormon and read the Bible again as a full out skeptic, that's when all the glaring contradictions and things that just couldn't make any sense to me. And of course, that's right about the time that the internet started being more accessible. More able to find the answers, and I've gotten pretty good at my Google foo to be able to find the propaganda both for and against topics, and so yeah.
Yeah, Scott, Holly's wondering what you're talking about when you're refer to a time when the internet wasn't available.
I know.
But yeah, so it's leveled the playing field for guys like Scott and I, who now we no longer have to take anybody's word for anything. And what a luxury!
I'm envious of my sons, and when I see people on Facebook ask questions about, who want general atheists to explain the Big Bang to them. You're sitting on the largest repository of knowledge in the history of man, and you're asking us dummies to explain to you things. The answers are out there. Why are you on the internet asking common people? I don't understand all the parts about the Big Bang, but I can spend 15, 20 minutes doing research, and I can have a speaking knowledge about it, or at least a general idea. So that's what has always blown me away, that people in this day and age, especially these young kids who are asking these questions, and they're not bothering to look up the answers themselves. And I see that going away, though. I really do see that going. I see that going the way where people are stopping. They're stopping being confrontational or combative, and they're starting to Google these things. They're starting to click on those links that they're being told not to click on by their pastor, and they're learning these things that are again. I remember whether it was you, Scott, or somebody else who called them logic bombs, planting those little logic contradictions in their head. They turn over in in their head while they're in the shower, while they're falling asleep, and going, "Wait a minute, how did you get 8 million species on a boat? Ain't gonna work."
Yeah. And then the House of Cards. Then see,
Sure.
for me, it wasn't so much losing the Bible stories that I missed when I became more of a skeptic, a critical thinker. Was I missed things like now no longer believe in the Loch Ness monster like I used to. The UFOs that were a great fantasy relief, to plug into that belief system and go along with it like I used to. But now Holly is actually talking to us from university. Are you finding any support groups in your area or anywhere else, Holly?
Not for non-believers, but there are Christian groups on campus. I accidentally signed up for one when I was trying to win an Xbox, and they wouldn't stop calling me for 2 weeks. So that was a bit of entrapment there. But
Did
I
you
just
win the
want to
Xbox?
add. No, I didn't.
Oh, there.
I just wanted to add about what he was saying before about the internet being so amazing. Because when I was growing up, my parents encouraged me to read books that were like a Christian's view on evolution or a Christian's view on atheism, which of course it's very biased and always has an agenda. And so it was just the internet and being able to look at things firsthand, not through the guise of religion, that actually really helped me push through.
Right. Yeah. You're finding the same thing, Scott, that you can, just like you were talking about Google, a little bit of companionship or support, or just somebody that can give you an honest and intelligent conversation is just a click away now.
Right. I mean, I started using when I was I just moved back to Colorado after spending about 2 years in the Midwest working another job, and I had just started finding meetup groups that would get together at people's houses and would just tell stories or would just a support group for atheism. Really is really what it came down to. And when I got back here, the only one I found was they call themselves atheists and free thinkers, and they want to sit around and they want to complain about religion. They want to attack religious groups and groups that are. What got me into this main group was that there was a local church that had shown a video in a gym class. A gym teacher had chosen to show this video of this local youth center type thing that had a foam pit and a climbing wall and quote, "We'll give you more junk food than your parents will allow you to have." It was a candy van for church. It really was. And the fact that it was being shown in a public school raised the hackles on this atheist group, and they went after the church and the school, and they did get the director of the schools to sit down with them and assure them that that's not okay. The teacher's been reprimanded. It's going in our training for next year to make sure that religious material like that is not allowed to be peddled in school. It's that simple.
So you join together for some solidarity and to strengthen your voice.
Exactly. But the problem with this group was that they really are. They're actually a lot of older people who aren't so much for being. They want to send out emails and write opinion letters, and they want to make noise that way. But they're not so much on going and confronting people or just doing good, doing good work, showing that you're good without God type thing. So I found another group, and it turns out it's run by a friend of mine that I knew 20 years ago, called Humanists Doing Good, and they get together 2-3 times a month, and they have barbecues, they do roadside cleanups, they do all these things and getting the word out there that the old phrase "good without God." They're showing that they're not focusing on that. They're showing that they're a secular group that's able to do good for the community without the religious overtones to it. Right. And that appeals to me more. I mean, I'm all for let's attack or let's go after and let's expose the Christianity or the Christian agenda when it comes to having laws passed based on biblical law I'm all for going after that, but I'd also much rather put the positive spin versus the negative. Why are you bashing my religion spin?
Right. Kind of put the humanism into it. So I think
I,
that's
I, I like
probably
the whole idea of the humanism. I like that that aspect where it shows that the golden rule existed long before Jesus Christ.
right.
Um, it's just that Jesus Christ had better PR.
That's right. Well, I'm gonna let you go, Scott. You enjoy your evening in Colorado,
Will do. Appreciate it.
and we'll talk to you again soon. And Holly, you are just been sitting patiently outside of your university. What it is that what are you studying?
I'm studying political science and philosophy with a minor in media.
Well, you're gonna be dangerous.
Hopefully.
Well, I'll let you get back to your studies, and I want to thank both of you for joining us and sharing your story, and we'll check in with you again.
All right, cool. See ya.
Okay, take care, guys.
Cool. Thanks a lot.